In my childhood, it was a lot of scarcity mindset. Go to school, get a job, work at the job for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and then retire, right? So that was my mindset. That's all I ever knew.
I just remember getting home after when we got home and I just collapsed. The adrenaline, it just been like going through me.
I've been saying this a lot lately. You must believe to achieve. Like, I want to be the best husband for my wife. I want to be the best father. I want to be the best leader for my team. I want to be the best.
If there's one thing I know about Sean, it's his planner, and his planner has helped him succeed in life.
Just sitting over here as your best friend and partner, I'm like, if this guy can do this, when it would take most people 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, you did it in 2 weeks. I'm sitting here thinking, like, if we apply those same principles, man, anything that you want to do in your life, you can move the needle in.
The biggest wake-up call in my life, and what I've learned from coachees and people in my life, is you have to take a look at yourself in the mirror and realize that, hey, where are my beliefs? Where are my limiting beliefs? Where is my self-doubts? Where is this showing up?
That is what working on the business is. Freeing yourself up to spend time to look at the big picture. If you're always busy, you can't look at the big picture. You can't.
What do you want your business to do for you? Do you want to be that self-employed that does the emails and the phone calls? Cool. Probably not a podcast for you.
It is the thing that we should seek out, because what is behind the guidance? It's the information that we want. It's the catalyst that will get us to where we want to go.
Level up and live.
Level up and live. Well, this is probably going to be applicable to just about all areas of life. When there's something you don't want to do and you're scared to do it, that is the thing you need to do. We all know it, and we still avoid it. And I think a big part of it is the scared mindset is an uncertain mind. We don't know outcomes, or we're afraid to face the outcomes of taking action or doing the thing that we don't want to do. And so we don't. We put it off. We just remain scared, and things don't get done. Needles don't get moved. And the only cure is to do the thing. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You can't think about it. You can't read about it. You can do all those things to prepare, but ultimately to not be scared is, in a clinical term, they'd say exposure therapy. If you're afraid of spiders, what they start doing is have you be around spiders more, and they slowly ease you into it. And before you know it, people who are petrified would faint at the sight can now hold and touch and let a spider walk around on them. And that is a key for pretty much everything in life. And it is specifically today, particularly towards businesses.
Yep.
There's so many things, so many reasons we don't move. We're afraid of what people will think. We're afraid of losing money. We're afraid of things not going the way that you want them to go, losing time. And if you play it all out, if these things go wrong, it always ends up in, man, I'll not be loved. It will be a disaster. I'll be bankrupt. And it's always these worst case scenarios. And very few times is that ever the case. And in fact, if you don't take the action and remain scared, those are the outcomes you're going to end up producing.
Yeah.
Because that's what you think about, you get what you think about. So today we're going to talk about taking action on those things that you're scared to do, and breaking those down in some instances within business. And maybe you'll hear yourself doing some of those things, and you'll be able to realize, here's some action steps to take to get you unscared and moving. So yeah, man, you've coached a lot of people at this point, and what percentage would you say, they might say, well, I'm unclear, don't know what I'm doing, I need help with this. What percentage would you just guesstimate? A lot of that is fear-based, scared.
What's interesting is from my experience, it's been the complete opposite of that. Like, for most of the people that I've coached, they're just like, tell me what I need to do and I'll do it, right? Because of the credibility, the authority. And it's like the old Chinese proverbs, right? Go down the road less traveled, the road most traveled. And if you're going down the road less traveled, go find somebody that's been down that road so they can pull you and show you the ropes. And then I think what it does you, and is it wipes away, but when you have that fear, whether it's fear of hiring, whether it's fear of delegating, whether it's fear of starting a business, whether it's fear of losing money, scarcity mindset, whatever it may be, from my experience in these coachees, and even myself included, is if you want to take away that fear, go have somebody that's going to guide you. have a mentor or guide that's going to guide you, because from my experience, the fear goes out the window. It's like, okay, if Sean has done this, I can do this. I've literally heard coachees tell me that if with all due respect, like if you can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm hearing is, so if I was to play that out, they were afraid. They have been scared. They don't know what to do. Yeah. And what do people do in that space? They look for certainty. They look for a hand to be held, someone to lift them up. And then they come to get coaching and the fear disappears because they have someone having their back.
Yes.
And they have comfort. They have certainty now. So it's almost the pregame. The fear is what has driven them to you. And then when they come to you, it's relief. Yeah. And I was thinking about my own personal experiences and probably yours experience too, when you're concerned about something and you don't know what to do, don't know which direction to go. Maybe it shows up, however it shows up, frustration, anger, fear, whatever. You go find that person. It's like, the promised land. And then you feel good. But before that, so these are people who are getting help. How many people get coaching? I mean, almost nobody. Very fraction of a fraction, because we don't like to ask for help. We think we have the answers, and we probably do have the information, which we did an episode on that, but we don't. Information doesn't mean you're going to do what you need to do. And it's the uncertainty of what will happen if you do take the action on the information that you have. And so I think, what do people do that aren't coming to get coaching and they're scared, right? And they're not able to make that, and they know they need to make that hire. They know they need to get that employee to hire so that they don't have to do that job anymore, but it's going to cost $2,000 a month, and they don't have that. How do you get them past that?
Yeah, for me, it's acknowledging the fear. It's real, right? And so recognizing that losing money, and that's I've always been a big believer on scarcity mindset and abundance mindset. And when you really break that down on what scarcity mindset is and what abundance mindset is, I'm a pros and cons guy. I've looked at both, and my entire life up until my late 20s, I always lived a scarcity mindset because of my upbringing, my childhood. And so I really had to acknowledge that when I tied the scarcity of losing money because of bringing on an employee, that was a real thing for me. And I didn't know any better. I didn't have a role model. I didn't have a mentor to a certain degree where they were able to break these things down for me. Because once I realized, like, oh, that's who I am right now, that's the feeling that I'm getting on losing money and scarcity mindset. Who do I need to become to get to where I want to go and in my business, so I can hire somebody and get outside of that scarcity mindset? And the answer is abundance mindset. When you have the abundance mindset of there's enough money in this world, there's enough employees in this world, there's enough to go around, 10x, 100x, million X, then you can do something about it. And so it's acknowledging that. It's acknowledging that. And so for me, like when I shifted this mindset and I had these different steps, I reframed my thinking. Everything that I just explained to you, I just reframed my thinking because I got curious. So instead of you and focusing on the potential loss, because that's what I did up until my early 20s and starting a business, it's easy to focus on losing money, that money coming out of my bank account. So I started reframing my thinking to I wanted to consider the long-term gains, right? And so then I started reframing it to, okay, hiring this person isn't going to take $35,000 out of my bank account. And they're not just expense. It's not just an expense, but they're investments in the business growth and sustainability. Once I started reframing my thinking and shifting my mindset to this is an investment, when you hear reinvestment back into your business that allows you to remove yourself and get to where you want to go, that's abundance mindset. That's shifting the mindset. That's reframing your thinking. And that's what's going to allow you to be sustainable in the long run.
Which is extremely difficult when you're in the scarcity mindset. It's very hard to shift over into that abundance because those are not the ruts. Those are not the thinking patterns that you've had. And when you're shifting, it's literally neurons connecting in your brain. Like you create ruts, like the beaten down paths. And so you're so used to doing that. It's like you're doing it unconsciously and it's automatic. And so it's a spiral down. And to think in this new light, it seems impossible.
Yeah.
And there has to be like some sparks there. I think that's why, I think that's where most people come and get coaching, is because
Yep.
they've gone down that beaten path so far and they have nowhere left to go. And which is funny because we've done another episode on that. It's like when you're sick and tired is when people make those moves and they've burned the bridges. And our goal here is to hopefully help people not get that far down because it's a terrible place. A lot of people don't come back from it. And if we could stop anybody getting there, man, life is so beautiful around the corner, and listening to you've done it, you've got the blueprint, you've seen it. And so shifting that mindset, someone that is struggling, they built those paths, those ruts. What would be a little, because they're not gonna be able to take a big leap. They're going to go from scarcity to abundance right away. It's going to be that little, just that snippet of light. And they're going to shift that rut, that path a little bit to the right, and then another bit of light, and it gets brighter and brighter. See the light at the end of the tunnel type thing. What advice would you give there?
Yeah. So once you start reframing that thinking, once you start reframing your mindset, because that's what it ultimately comes down to. If you're like I was very prideful and very egotistical. Nope, I've got it all figured out. Well, that thinking, that mindset, Ewan, was not going to get me to where I wanted to go, was not going to allow me to hire my first person, was not going to allow me to scale that first business, right? And so I'm not saying I've faced new challenges along the way, because as you grow, have that mindset shift, we just face different challenges and problems and obstacles along the way. And it's a beautiful thing because it's who you become. I just apply the same principles and fundamentals. So once I understood that was the first step, is reframing my thinking, reframing my mindset. I wanted to start small, just like what you're saying. And this can go for any area of life. This can go for going to church. This can go for running a marathon, starting a business. Start small. I was the type of guy that I wanted to bite off more than I can chew. And so when you do that, and that about me, Ewan, it's just not sustainable and it's not replicatable. You're not going to continue to show up and do it over and over and over, depending on who you are. And so I can't speak for everybody, but start small. That is the best way to do it. And so if we're talking about hiring your first employee, then the way I look at it is I didn't have to have a full team. I didn't have to have 15, 20, 25 people. You hear all these Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 1000, all these employees, right? And so how you do one thing is how you do everything. I learned really quickly by starting small. I just started delegating these few tasks to a part-time person, a part-time person at Level Up and Live. And when I started the insurance brokerage, I was fortunate enough by putting myself out there, because I reframed my thinking and my mindset. I had an intern come in and work for me for 3 months by just putting myself out there and understanding the mindset that I've got to grow this business and replace myself. God works in mysterious ways, put this individual in my life, and they worked for me for 3 months, and now they're still working with me to this day, 7 years later. So start small, whether it's part-time. We have a part-time assistant. Look, if you break it down, 10, 11, 12, 13, $14 an hour, do the math on that, right? If you're making $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month, whatever it may be, whatever your revenue is, and you replace yourself by starting small, you can hire a part-time assistant, somebody that's a teenager or a family member or somebody that's eager to learn and grow with you, and pay them $200, $300, every couple of weeks. And they're freaking happy just by doing an internship with you, right? And growing with you. So start small. Think like these small little baby steps. Then when you realize like, oh my gosh, they just took all this off my plate. They just took off. I got 6 hours of my life back. When you because I got courage, because I took that leap of faith and I reframed my thinking. Now, okay, did I lose $300 or did I get my time back? Right. And so that's the way I reframed my thinking and my mindset. By doing this allowed me to test the waters without a huge, significant financial commitment. Because the last thing I want to do is pay somebody $250,000 a year to come in and be my CFO. Right. I would rather them start and mold them and grow them within the company. And then whatever value they provide to the business, let's grow over time. Let's do profit sharing. Let's do bonuses. Let's do, right? Because you're helping grow the company. So start small.
You said that intern, was that your first? Was that the first person that came on board? Yep. Did you feel a shift in, like, because you were a business owner, but then when you got that first employee, was that your first experience of being like, oh man, now I'm an owner? I thought I was but now I've got this time back. That might be like that little baby step, like you're talking about. It's the breakdown of people are scared because they're afraid of the overall looming outcome, right? They're looking big picture, and that's super scary. But if you break it down to just that small little thing and it's totally doable, then you get that first taste. Like, did you feel like that shift of like, oh man, I'm working on it? Like, did you remember that feeling?
Yeah, man. So once I hired this individual, like, I remember my nerves, I remember my anxiety, I remember like super anxious, like everything shot through the roof, because when you have a business and you're self-employed, it's all eyes on you, right? And so typically you've got some set of skill sets, you've got some kind of talent, where it's just you. But when you bring somebody on, something magical happens in your brain. It's, and it's sink or swim, meaning like, okay, well, now that I have my why, now that I have my clear vision and where I want to go, then that's what you focus on. And then everything else is just in between. So, and in my process of hiring this individual, it was just trial and error. It was mistakes. It was failures after failure. And it really leveled me up as a leader. I mean, when you bring somebody in, you're automatically given the responsibility of you're responsible for this individual. This is your team member. This is your employee. They work, And so I had the mindset, the scarcity mindset of, you work for me, not the other way around. It was the wrong mindset. Again, it comes back to reframing that thinking. Once that person came in, I learned who I wanted to become over time because of all the different trials and errors and the mistakes and failures that I had made. And it wasn't getting me to where I wanted to go. And so, unfortunately, Ewan, because of my pride and my ego and what, me and you talk a lot about behind the scenes with a lot of business owners, it's an epidemic out there. Yeah. They're clueless, right, on reaching out for help. And that was me. I didn't want to reach out for help. And I was just basically beating my head up against the wall month after month after month until I finally got sick and tired. Well, the whole reason that where we are today is to help those individuals, our younger selves, avoid that pain, avoid that failure.
Yeah.
And so, learn from my mistakes. And once you have this different perspective, if somebody would have came in and just knocked me out, set me on my rear end, Ewan, and said, listen to me, right? Because your back's up against the wall right now, even though it's not, because you have that scarcity mindset. You're doing okay. You got money, blah, 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 all these other things. You need to understand this perspective of you need to work on yourself right now and have a percentage of that and come up with a clear plan to get to where you want to go.
Yeah. And I think people need to give themselves grace as well. Because if you've never done it before, like if this is your first rodeo and even for yourself, it was your first time, like it's not, you haven't failed or you haven't been failing. You've been, or if anything, failing forward, which is really just learning. And then you realize, oh, this is what I need to do. And this is this is the process for learning anything. If you never played tennis before, you try and hit that ball across the net and you end up putting it over the fence because you don't know how to do it. But after your 1000th stroke and you're hitting the ball, you start to understand, oh, now I'm pretty good at swinging that racket. But it takes time, and you got to get to the tennis court. You got to take the ball and the racket, be prepared, and then start just swinging and being prepared to put the ball in the net and make some mistakes, and then you just progress. And I know that's a simple analogy, but it's that's the learning process of the human brain, and everything you're saying, of course, this is money, livelihood, so it's going to feel more intense than just we're playing a game, but it is no different at the end of the day. It's all just mindset and perspective and how you perceive what's going on. And the same things need to happen, which is what you said, you just take those baby steps and just take it as it comes.
Well, you can take the baby steps, but at the end of the day, hearing it from a 30-minute podcast and reading a book, you're still going to experience the trials and errors and the anxiety, the stress, the failures, and the mistakes. You can start small all day long, but at the end of the day, that's why I'm such a big believer on learning from somebody that's actually done it and getting that implementation. And I know that's what we do here at Level Up and Live, and that's what we're promoting and trying to help individuals avoid, the same failures and the mistakes that we've had. And so I tell coachees all the time, I'm like, create a clear plan. What does it look like for the next 3, 6, 12 months for you in your business? And you create those little in different areas of life. You create that plan for different areas of life, whether that's for your exercising, your next competition, for your spiritual life. And it's tough. It's challenging, Ewan, and having that accountability.
It takes this daily action. If you think about training, I mean, every rep counts because you're going to a destination. And the version of you that took just that one extra day to train, I mean, that might have been the difference between winning and losing, so it's a daily consistent, and you have to plan that out, because if you're just willy-nilly just doing something here, something there, and it's not specific to the end goal, then you're going to miss. You're just not going to get there, and it's not sustainable, as we always say. So it's a great point, man. Just it's like it's got to be 3, 6, 12 months, because you can see that far and take the daily action towards that. And of course, you have the bigger overarching picture, but all those small steps get you there, and that's the journey.
Yeah. And so the lesson in a nutshell, for me, just a quick, simple story from my personal experience, and hopefully people can put themselves in their own shoes and where they're at in their journey. In the title and what we're talking about today, if you're scared, just do it. Right. And so that's exactly what you need to do. And for me, it was going back to 2015, meet Sean, which is myself, right? Sean Myers here. I was an insurance agent in 2015 who had built an insurance agency from the ground up. I had 0 customers. I remember my first customer. I won't mention his name just for confidentiality reasons, but him, Ewan. And I remember that to this day. And so for years, I handled everything on my own. And I thought I did, right? I thought I had to. The sales, the customer service, the paperwork, and so much more. But lately I started, over time, I started feeling overwhelmed, which is what maybe people are experiencing right now in their own business, is just overwhelmed. And I knew the business and myself. I knew I had potential, Ewan, to grow, but there was only so much that I could do by myself. I had the energy, I had the time, because we didn't have kids. And I knew that I was only going to get to where I knew I was only going to get so far, because I couldn't do it all by myself. And I was running out of energy. So that's when I started thinking about the first, 6 months, 12 months. I thought about hiring new agents and support staff to come on and take these responsibilities. I started reframing my thinking and focusing on that percentage of that entrepreneur of expanding the business, right? However, fear creeps in, right? Mm-hmm. And I started thinking, well, what if I hire someone and they don't perform well? What if I end up losing money, spending this $35,000 in salaries a year and not making it? So the scarcity mindset took over. And I realized that I started challenging myself that it's safer just to keep things as they are. But here's the thing, Ewan, deep down inside my soul, I knew that if I kept working in the business instead of on it, I will never be able to get to where I want to go and scale and monetize the business and where I want it to go. So after reflecting and getting curious with this and looking at myself in the mirror, I realized that the fear of the scarcity mindset, this conventional thinking of losing money and control, right, is holding me back from real growth in where I want to go.
That's it right there, man.
So when I decided, Ewan, to take that leap and say, enough's a freaking enough. Nobody else is going to do it for me. Nobody's going to come to my rescue. The government's not going to come to my rescue. I was like, you know what? I'm hiring team members. I'm taking a pay cut. So be it. And I started going to work. I started delegating tasks. Now, at first, Ewan, it was uncomfortable. It was super uncomfortable. Yeah. Probably the first 3 years. I had to let go of control. I'm a control guy. And I had to trust others to handle these key parts of the business. Customers, dealing with my mom, my dad. I had to trust these people. But here's the thing, Ewan, the key ingredient, that as time went on, I started seeing progress. I started seeing benefits. Then I started seeing my team, Ewan, do it better than I did on the day-to-day operations, which allowed me to focus and work on the business, the strategy, the networking, and bringing in new clients. And so not only was the business growing, but guess what, Ewan? I was less stressed.
Yeah.
I was more fulfilled over time because I was doing the things that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right. Empowering my team member. And the cool part about it, the team members actually loved what they did, what they were doing, their tasks, their responsibilities that I didn't like doing. So if the lesson here, if you're scared to do it, that's exactly what you need to do. By confronting the fear of losing money and letting go, I was able to work on the business rather just in it.
I was gonna say the 35 grand, that could have held you up if you had just been like, nah, it's too much. I'm not willing to let that go. Yep. Think about everything you just said about what you got in return. Just that 35 grand, the thought of losing that to employee would have demolished all of that if it had held you back. Just because of $35,000 stopped you from getting to the $1 million club. You know, and so look at the return. It is an investment. And even if you lost the 35 and it wasn't good, it would still be better than dwelling on it and not taking the shot, because then you, like you said, you're never going to get to where you want to go. So I think it's, like you said, just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it, man. We're scrapped for time. Thanks for listening to this. If you are listening all the way through, you are definitely a top 1%er. So make sure you share this with a business owner, entrepreneur, somebody in sales that is looking to level up and live their best life. Please drop us a review on what you liked about the show. This is what helps us organically grow. This is what helps us expand. And send us a text message, 936-788-4295. What is a fear of yours? What is holding you back? We set up strategy calls. We got the link in the show notes. We do free strategy calls. There's no obligation. Set up a call with me or Ewan, and we'll be more than happy to point you in the right direction, whether you decide to do business with it or not. Outside of that, level up and live.
Level up and live.